Have you ever been in a business meeting where you wanted to contribute but hesitated because you weren't sure how to express yourself? Or maybe you spoke but you felt like your message wasn't clear? Many non-native professionals struggle with business meetings, and today we're going to fix that. In this video, I will share the most common mistakes that non-native business professionals make in business meetings and show you what you can do to avoid them in the future so you can communicate clearly and effectively in all your English business meetings. My name is Karina and welcome to the English Meeting Room. Here, I teach you how to communicate effectively in English so that you can build your dream career in global business. If that sounds good, please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Now, let's get to the point. Mistake number 1 is speaking too little or avoiding to speak altogether. This is what happens. It's because you may be afraid of making mistakes when you speak in English. You lack confidence speaking in front of other people, or you're just trying to wait for the perfect time to say what you need to say. It's understandable that you want to do it well, but the truth is, if you have this habit, it's holding you back. If you don't speak up in business meetings, you may appear disengaged and lacking initiative. As you don't speak up, your expertise, your knowledge, your professionalism is not being noticed. Here is how to fix it. You can use simple phrases to jump in, to start talking. I'd like to add something here. If I may, I have a question. You can prepare a couple of points that you would like to discuss before the meeting. Or just before you speak, take a couple of seconds to organize your thoughts so that you can express yourself better. Use simple language. There's no need to use all those professional sounding advanced words that you've been studying, but now at that moment you can't remember. And don't worry about making mistakes. Mistake number 2 is using overly complex language. This happens because you want to sound professional, so you're trying to use all those long, complicated sentences, formal expressions, and so on. As a result, your messages can become unclear and confusing. You may get stuck in the middle of a sentence and forget what you started with and where you are supposed to go with that. Or you may use the wrong expression and cause misunderstandings in that way. So you want to sound professional, but the result is the opposite. Here is how to fix it. Keep it simple and direct. Instead of saying, I was just wondering whether it might be possible to discuss the budget allocation issue, you can just say, can we discuss the budget allocation? Use clear structures to express the main point. So you can say, the problem is, the solution is. Use language that you're confident about using. So instead of saying, we need to leverage our core competencies to optimize synergies in the space, you can just say, we need to use our strengths to work better together. Does it make sense so far? If you have any questions, leave them below in the comments and I will make sure to answer them. Mistake number 3 is avoiding expressing your opinion. It happens because of your fear of being wrong or going against other people's opinions. There's also a cultural aspect to this. In some cultures, expressing your opinion or especially a disagreement in a business meeting is not considered a good thing. It's actually a problem because you can miss opportunities to demonstrate your expertise or show initiative. Here is how to fix it. First of all, it's important that you get used to the idea that you have to speak up in those business situations because it's important for your career development and your relationships at work. If you feel that you don't have anything particularly new or different to say on the issue, you can just say that you agree with what was expressed and just add some extra details that were not mentioned before. Now, when expressing your opinion, use some softening phrases that will make you sound polite and natural. So you can say, in my experience, I found that I see it slightly differently. Here's why. Use a clear and logical structure to present your opinion. So a good formula to follow is this: opinion, reason, examples, and conclusion. So in your first sentence, you clearly state your opinion. Then you provide a reason. You explain why you think that way. Then, if needed, provide a couple of examples to justify your opinion. And finally, conclusion. Just summarize or repeat in different words what you have already said. Mistake number 4 is not structuring your ideas clearly. This happens because, for example, you're thinking in your native language and then you're trying to translate it in your head into English while you're speaking. Also, when telling the events, you may be telling them chronologically, means this happened first and then this happened and then that happened. That is not always a good structure to present the whole story. Also, in some cultures, it is more common to present your point by starting with some background information and then slowly get to the main point. If you do that while translating into English that kind of formula pattern, then the result can be very confusing and unclear to your listeners. So for all of those reasons, the result can be that your ideas sound unorganized, unstructured, and therefore difficult to follow and understand. Now here is how to fix it. Use some of the simple frameworks to present your ideas. One of them is PREP. Point, reason, example, point. This is essentially the same framework I presented when speaking about the opinions. Another framework is actually called framing. This is what it means. First, you start from presenting a context. Like, what is the situation here? What are we talking about? Then you briefly mention the intent. Why am I presenting this idea? Or why am I talking to you? And then you have your key message. What is the actual point that you try to deliver? I know this sounds complicated, but I promise that in my future videos, I will explain it in more detail and provide some examples to make it really, really clear for you and so that you can go and apply it in your life. If you're telling a story, make sure the story has the beginning, the middle, and the end. Mistake number 5 is not managing interruptions and disagreements appropriately. This can happen because you're afraid to sound rude or you just don't know how to handle those situations politely. In some cultures, people tend to avoid expressing disagreements openly, and that is why they may find it a little bit hard to get used to that kind of business culture. It can be a problem because you may lose control of your point or seem passive. You might fail to express your point effectively. If someone interrupts you before you have finished speaking, you can say, "I'd like to finish my point and then I'd love to hear your thoughts." If you want to express a different opinion Acknowledge the other person's point first and then present yours. So for example, you could say, "That's a good point, but I see it a little bit differently." It's important to stay calm and professional when handling disagreements. Don't say things like, "You're wrong. Why are you interrupting me?" Because that sounds rude. In such situations, your tone of voice is also really important because it can misrepresent what you're actually trying to say. Mistake number 6 is avoiding asking questions or asking for clarification. It can happen because you don't want to seem unprepared or you don't want to interrupt others. Even when you didn't understand something, you may pretend that everything is clear because you don't have the confidence to really ask a question and clarify the information. You may feel embarrassed or insecure to do so, so you just pretend you understood everything. It's a problem because you may misunderstand important points and that can affect your job performance. Now here's how to fix it. First of all, use polite phrases to ask for clarification. So for example, you could say, "Could you clarify what you mean by?" Another good method is rephrasing what you think was said and then asking whether that was correct. So for example, you could say, "Just to make sure I understand correctly, are you saying that summarizing skills are extremely useful in those situations?" Another thing you can do is prepare a couple of questions in advance so that you feel more confident to ask them during your meetings. Mistake number 7 is not sounding confident because you're using filler words and weak language. This can happen because you feel nervous, you lack practice, you're searching for the right words, and maybe you have a habit of using certain weak sounding words or filler words. Weak sounding words like maybe, I guess, also sound like you're not completely sure you believe in what you are saying. So as a result, it is more difficult to convince others of your ideas as well. Here is how to fix it. Practice using pauses instead of filler words. So instead of saying, just pause and take a breath. Another thing, try to use strong statements instead of weak sounding phrases and words. So instead of saying, "I think maybe this could work," you could say, "I'm confident this is the right solution." Do you feel the difference? So let's recap. We talked about 7 common mistakes you may be making in English business meetings. First, staying silent. Then, avoiding expressing your opinion, using complex language, unclear structure, struggling with interruptions and disagreements, not asking questions, and weak language. If you apply the simple solutions that I have shared with you today, you can definitely start communicating more clearly and effectively with your colleagues and clients at work. Which of these mistakes have you experienced before? Please let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with any of your colleagues who might find it useful as well. See you in the next video.